According to Israel Hayom, most of Donald Trump's advisors support an attack on, here it says Iran, but I'm going to read it Islamic Republic. Okay, so most of them support an attack on the Islamic Republic, with Vice President Vance also backing a military option. Only Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are reported to oppose such action.
Look, he might be like doing a calculation like you already said it, so you cannot look weak. You can never know right?
Yep, that's exactly what he said. That
Oh, really?
JD Vance, that's exactly his reasoning, because he
Hmm?
said that.
I didn't catch up like at all in the last couple of days.
Well, that's exactly what he said. He said Trump drew a red line, and the Islamic Republic crossed the red line. So now we have to take action because the president's red lines have to mean something.
He
So
put
that's his
himself into a
reasoning.
corner. Definitely. That's a good thing
Yeah,
for us, right?
yeah. Jared Kushner and
Um,
Woodcuff are getting really, really. Actually, Jewish Samantha said like she's surprised about Jared Kushner. Now, I was surprised as well, but now that I think about it, it actually makes sense because Jared Kushner is very close to the Saudis and the Emiratis, so it
yeah.
actually makes like he has a lot of money. They have a lot of investments in his companies and his projects,
And if
so
you
he's
take all
more.
of his all of his history, just look it carefully. He's not a very loud person, but he doesn't have like a lot of things that make you think differently.
No,
Not a
but
lot.
let me go back. Let me go back to the point that I was making. Both Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner have
Invested.
a lot of financial interests
Yes.
when it comes to the Qatar and Saudi Arabia and the UAE. So they're against an attack for personal financial reasons.
But you could say it for Trump as well because it's his family and right?
Yeah, but Trump is more for, yeah, true. Sometimes Trump makes decisions based on the money that the family is making, but I think Trump is more for legacy than money,
Right, right, right.
right?
And it's
Trump
more
wants a
like from the gut,
legacy.
I think, right? Or
No,
not
Trump
necessarily.
is Trump wants to be the greatest, not leader in the history books. I think his ambitions have
Yeah.
moved past money. He wants to become. He wants to be God, basically. I think. Right.
You
I mean,
need
they
to tell
didn't
him
try to assassinate him also. Isn't it personal?
he didn't
Yeah.
seem to really take this weight on him, by the way.
Yeah, I think Trump used to want to be the greatest president in the history of the United States, but I think that's not enough for him. He doesn't seem to want to be competing with like President Lincoln anymore. He wants to be competing with people like, I don't
Yahweh.
know,
Yahweh.
King Cyrus and Alexander the Great. Like he wants to be like known as the great. Like that's why he's now speaking in thousands of years. Right? For example, he used to speak about, oh, in the history of United States, I've done this. This is the greatest thing in the history of United States. I've done this. Nobody has done this. But now, if you look at his language, he says nobody has done this in thousands of years. This is going to be something new in thousands. Like, yeah. So he's
But you know
thinking.
what?
He's thinking.
What a point! What is a point that I get now that you say it? Uh, Many times he says things that are clearly not happened yet, didn't happen yet. Now we know he's speaking what he wants to happen. We need to actually listen to it and not say,
Yeah.
oh, okay, now he's just saying. No, he wants it. He's
No, no.
declaring his intentions. That's a
We're
good thing.
inferring his intentions by the magnitude of his bragging.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, he has the most powerful army in the world under his command, so we have to take his words very seriously.
I think his ego is the most powerful thing he has.
Well, an ego that commands over an army that has godlike powers. I think a lot of people don't understand the how powerful the U.S. military is. Like, I think people don't really understand the scale of it. Like,
Yeah, but they
it,
lost
it
against the Taliban's and Vietnam. So
no,
with all their might,
no, they
they are
didn't
very good.
lose. No, they didn't lose. They didn't lose. They just thought it was not worth it. I mean, the United States. So here's the thing, guys. It's one thing to have the military capital to carry out something. It's another thing to have the political capital, right? So they're not short on military strength, they're short on political strength because US is a democracy. The United States could wipe out United States could basically kill every single person in Afghanistan within like half a day. Oh, and in Vietnam as well. In half a day, both of them, if they wanted to. They could wipe out every living thing in Vietnam and Afghanistan in half a day. The reason, the limitation is not military strength, the limitation is political capital, because it's a democracy, and a democracy basically is a limit on what you could do with your army. Amy, you raise your hand.
You also have to remember that there other countries have nuclear weapons. So, I mean, you can have the most powerful military in the world, but if you've got a button that could kill everybody, then you got to think about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on which countries we're talking about.
Yeah, but the worst case that can happen is losing one city, one major city. That's the worst case scenario for each nuke.
They could take out a city and they will lose their entire country, basically, because of US, what US would do to them in return.
Gotcha.
Right, that's a good point. Any country that wants to do a nuclear attack on the United States, what Francisco is pointing out is that the United States would lose a city, but then what will happen after to them is going to be, their entire country.
Okay, Nare, I've got you next.
Oh, Nare.
I was just wondering, Armin, because of the pessimist that I am at this point, what do you think a plan B would look like if it comes to a point where nothing happens and people are just stuck there? And what do you think would we have a plan B, and what do you think it would look like?
So just to be clear, you're talking about the revolution in Iran. If United States and Israel don't intervene and help out, what do you think will happen? What's plan B for the revolution? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. So I think the Iranian people, based on what I'm hearing, is they're ready to come out into the streets and basically wage war on the Islamic Republic with whatever. Even the reason why they might be waiting for United States and Israel to attack, just to just to see if they would attack, and if they do attack, so that when they go out, they're dealing with a weaker Islamic Republic. But if the attack doesn't come, that does not mean they're not going to. The second wave of this revolution is going to happen one way or another. So just because the Iranian people are waiting to see if America attacked, it doesn't mean that if they don't attack, they're not going to go and do this. You just want to see if they're going to get any help or not. And I think this revolution will continue until the Islamic Republic has fallen, because the Islamic Republic is on free fall as we're speaking right now. Like, it's just a shell, and it's just basically a bunch of weapons being shot at people. And the Islamic Republic is on economic free fall as well, and the revolution is speeding that up as well. The whole currency situation, the cost of everything, the regime is not going to be able to maintain paying the cost required to keep suppressing the Iranian people. And I think it's in free fall, and at some point, the balance of power is going to shift towards the Iranian people, even without help. But I think for that to happen, without the help of the United States and Israel, we're going to have a lot more people dying before we get there. It's going to take much longer than we want, but at the end of the day, I think we're going to win. What do you think?
I agree with you. There's no going back from this. From everything I've seen from people inside and family and friends and everyone, there's just absolutely no going back from this. There cannot be any normalcy after all of this, after everything they've been through. And I think that's what makes me nervous, is that there's going to be more bloodshed before an actual change happens. So yeah, I don't know. I'm in my psychotic phase at this point. I'm just trying to hang in there, and I think we all are. And just every morning we wake up and we hope that something's happened. And my friend from Iran said the same thing. She says, I haven't slept in 3 weeks and I'm just on satellite news channels trying to figure out what's going on. And so, yeah, there's no going back from this. This is it.
Yep. By the way, I'll be right back. Channel 12 News of Israel is calling me.
Yeah, to respond to that
Ooh.
personally, I'm getting tired of waking up, checking the news about Iran, and finding more videos of atrocities committed by the Islamic regime.
Okay,
Samantha, I saw your
so we
hand.
have a list.
Yes, I
Okay.
saw Samantha's hand go up, and I saw one hand right before it, but I didn't catch the name.
I think it was Cat Lady who did right before me.
Oh,
Oh
okay,
yeah,
okay.
Cat Lady. How
But
was your birthday?
I want to go check for a moment if it's like live or anything on channel 12. So I'll be back in a
Okay.
minute.
Okay.
Oh, I kind of want to ask Armin what his thoughts were in terms of, but like, I mean, anyone can answer in terms of like if anyone knows like how far China might be willing to go to like keep the Islamic Republic in power.
Yeah, it's a great question. Mine is also for Armin. Does anybody else have something that they just wanted to chat about here, or we can all just wait till he gets back and kind of
Like,
BS until then is
honestly,
fine.
I think how far China is willing to go to keep might be like a huge factor in what it would take.
To take them down.
Because yeah, because I mean, if
Yeah.
China's getting like basically stealing oil and really feels they have like a huge investment in keeping to like basically like practically steal oil from Iran, I think China alone would be strong
Oh,
enough if they're
China.
really invested
I
to make
don't
it
think
so that
to be honest, I don't think China will be like militarily intervening directly. China is not known for this. They're more like into sabotaging things or supplying weapons and stuff like
Yes.
that. They're not really, I don't think they did in the last, I don't know how many years, an actual military direct intervention for others. It's
Yes,
not the
correct. They
thing that,
never use their own military. It's always drones,
and
technology, information. Yeah.
the military is also not well trained for this, like in combat. So
Yes. Yep.
I mean, they
China
did
is responsible
Vietnam.
for the jammer, right? For the internet jammers.
exactly.
Those are Russians, the Russian technology.
By the way, there's a
Really?
new. I heard that right now there was like drones that the U.S. How do you say, like, put in the area, which were like made of like reverse engineered from the Shahed drones of the Iranians to block them. Yeah, something like that. Reverse
Well,
engineered.
good. Yeah.
Yes.
Is the rumor true, Cat Lady, that Israel uses women to press the button to kill jihadists so that they don't go to Jahannam?
We should.
That's funny. That's funny.
I hope it's true. I like it. I think only like ISIS, I think, was the only one that
Kurds.
outwardly believes it, but it's worth a shot.
Yeah, the Kurds did it.
Samantha, I want to mention to you, I believe that you saw it in the chat, but there was someone early on, one of the trolls, and he was talking nonsense and tagging you and, whatever, talking about old stuff. And so I threatened him. I know Armin says only do spam, but I'm pretty sure he would have gotten behind me on that one. But I just wanted to apologize that that person was behaving that
thank
way.
you.
Yeah.
I wondered if I could just chime in on the China thing and the drone being copied. So the drone thing, I think what you're talking about, Cat Lady, is the Shahid drone that the Iranian side, and yes, the Russians have reverse engineered it, which means that they have even less use for Iran as it is. And as for the Chinese, yes, you guys are correct. They don't have a policy of involving themselves directly militarily. And also important to note is that they haven't invested and committed a lot of military equipment to the Islamic Republic prior, right? And so if they are, so what one rationale that one could see, or like I would surmise it, is that they haven't been betting very heavily on the Islamic Republic before, because why bet on a losing horse? You're getting some cheap oil and stuff like that, but it's not worth for yourself to get politically into problems. And that's one of the reasons that Chinese tend to keep whatever has to do with military out of the loop. However, they do have a military venture right at their doorstep, and that is Taiwan. And one thing that is very important to note, which, if there were to be anything else than posturing, in my opinion, I think the Chinese are simply posturing. But if there were to be anything else, it would be to have some equipment that could be battle tested, because having equipment battle tested has immeasurable value. Like if you view it like from an investment perspective, what happens to your investment early has a compounding effect later. Likewise for military investment, if you have to adapt your equipment in the middle of a conflict, that may have profound effect later. So for the Chinese here, there is a rationale to. That's what the Israelis are for the Americans, by the way. The Israelis are battle testing a lot of equipment, which is very, very useful for the Americans.
By the way, you
For
didn't
the Chinese,
understand me.
however, if this were to actually
Let
be a
him finish.
justifiable,
Yeah.
if this were to be a justifiable rationale, first of all, they would have to have had the equipment there for quite a while, so that the Islamic Republic would have sufficient training to even use them. Because it won't matter to just send hand rifles. You need to send weapon platforms, anti-aircraft systems, and stuff like that. And this you would need to include Chinese personnel. So if the Chinese had not committed with personnel for training and advisors and so forth prior, they're basically too late for it. I mean, they could, if they want to send a strong signal to the United States. That's just going to make that they know that they will become prime targets for the Americans if they start doing that. So if I were to be putting a bet, I would say it's posturing. But yeah, Armin is back, so I'll just.
All right, can we go back to the list? Where were we?
Yes, me. Hi, Armin. Good afternoon for you. Me too, I guess. My question, yeah, well, it's 12:22. I don't know what time zone you're in. So anyway, my question is in regard to the troops that have defected that His Royal Highness has contact with. Do we have any publicly known information on when they are together, vetted, and ready to do something on the ground? Potentially, could that be done if a US or Israeli strike doesn't come or takes far too long? Do we have any known information?
We don't have any information because this is very sensitive information. Any information shared would be very valuable to this Islamic Republic to go and basically find these people. And if you also share whatever plan you have, is going to the Islamic Republic is going to figure out what the plan is and try to basically stop it from happening if any of this information was public, right?
Sure, sure, understood. I think a lot of us have looked and thought we wish that more Iranians had guns and manpower on the ground. And so that's kind of where my mind went straight to. But yeah, makes sense.
Oh,
Okay, next is Cat Lady.
yeah, guys. Apparently, they're asking me. The channel 12 is asking me if I want to do the interview now.
Good luck.
Okay. No, I'm gonna be here. You guys talk while I see if
Okay.
they send me the Zoom
So
link.
one thing I just want to make sure Kurt understand me, like always. I heard that there was I said it, but I want to say it again so Armin can hear. I heard that the US deployed a new kind of drone network that is actually reverse engineered after the Iranian Shahid in order to block them or something like that. So there is this new technology kind of thing. And also I wanted to because Nara said it, so I wanted if possible to simply imagine like, okay, like let's imagine this worst case scenario if like Trump says, oh, I talked to them and they won't shoot anyone and we're having like a deal and no one like it all finishes, like it can actually happen, and you can stop it all. So I see maybe like the people are starting to smuggle weapons. Am I right, or is it impossible in Iran?
To arm the people.
Yeah, because before
It's
that they
possible.
still had like this reality. Maybe we can still live with the situation, but now it's like all over, right?
Yeah, I mean it's really hard to smuggling weapons in Iran in a way for the people who are doing the revolution against the regime because in a number that is meaningful, because the regime officials will be able to see it coming because this is going to have to be a lot of weapons, right? So you potentially would be arming the regime even more against the people if you do that. if you try to get like how are you going to get it in? Like how do we know IRGC is going to be waiting? How are
No,
you going to
like
communicate? Let me finish. So if you communicate with the Iranian people, like the regime will be might be listening to that. Like if you try to get into the border, regime might be able to detect that it's coming in, and if the regime gets their hands on it, then you arm the regime more against the people. I think maybe a more effective strategy would be to make it easier for Iranian people to go get the regime is storing a lot of weapons in their own warehouses and everything, right? So if you could basically make it, bomb the entrance or the security, so that the Iranian people would just go to the weapon storage that is already in the country, and basically arm themselves with whatever weapons the regime has, that is going to be a lot more straightforward than trying to get weapons in, because there's already a lot of weapons in Iran. You just need to make it so that the Iranian people could get their hands on it. That would be
I
more effective.
guess my thought was, but it doesn't make sense. I thought like more a situation of like people doing militias and stuff, but it's not Iraq, It's not that kind of people, I guess.
No, the
It's not
Iranian
like
people would be like, as if Iranian people get their hands on some weapons, I think that everything will switch really fast, even if they're not trained, right? I mean, it doesn't take that much to just point and shoot at the people who are that are the enemy. It doesn't take
okay.
that much training to understand that. And I
Let's
think
question afterwards.
hold on, as soon as the armed forces see that there are some bullets coming their way from the other side, a lot of them would run away. So I think it would just take a little bit of armed resistance for a lot of the regime forces to just basically like, you know what? Okay, guys, I think this is going to be short, so I'll be back. Okay, but
Good luck.
yeah, okay. Thank you.
So I had one more question. I'm not sure if anyone can say, but is like the borders are all tight in Iran, or is it like is there one area where some population or something is more susceptible, more porous? Do you know what I mean?
I think
But
at the point
actually,
that you're
I know
sneaking in mass amounts of
I
weapons to Iran, you're doing a land invasion, right?
I know a couple of people that were able to get out of the country through the Armenia border, but I'm not sure if they would be able to smuggle in weapons through there because of the alliance semi-alliance that Armenia has with the Islamic Republic, sadly, unfortunately. But I do know some people were able to get out from that border.
How many weapons are you talking about, though?
Me?
Yeah, if you want to smuggle
No,
in
I'm
weapons,
not. Look, I'm not.
depends if
I'm
it's
not
one truck
like
or 50.
I don't have like a plan in my head. I'm just trying to make sense, and in order to not be like fall into depression if nothing happens, that's like a thing I do in life. I plan, vision the worst case scenario, and I plan, okay, what will I do? So it's like I'm trying to picture it. That's it. Don't get into my depression. So it's just a thought.
Amy, do you want to speak now, or are you just making sure you're on the list for Armin?
No, I was just wondering, are there any other Americans in chat?
Yes, me.
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah.
Yes,
Okay. Are you as frustrated as I am with how slow this is going and why we haven't done anything?
yes.
So, yes and no.
Okay.
Mostly yes. Mostly yes. I can't tell how much of that is me feeling triggered because of October 7th, is how
Mm-hmm.
much of me being triggered, period, watching people be victimized. And I mean, when something's going on in front of me in person, I get a very explosive anxiety when it's something physical. So like a fight and I attack. That is my personal, well, it's an issue, but anyway, I am kind of violent. And so I need it to be over and I need the suffering to stop. That would translate to like my bare hands and somebody's neck if it had to. Like I can't handle the anxiousness of it continuing on and on and on and on. So I feel very antsy right now at the fact that we haven't gone in as quickly as I would like. My husband, he's not any sort of deciding factor in this, but we're also an Air Force family. And so I'm aware, even the things that he does on a day to day, how you have to go through every single channel. Everybody makes everything harder and take longer than it needs to in the military.
Right.
Those are kind of inconsequential decisions even. So
Yes.
right now, trying to consider how many other nations are involved. You know, people have thrown around World War III or not. I imagine that at this time in history, we're not getting to what we would actually classify a world war like we used to classify them. But very clearly, China is involved here. We're involved. Israel's involved. Like we're there. We're there.
War three is
Yes.
digital war.
Yes.
It's online. It's happening.
Sure.
You
Well,
know.
also
Can I add
physically, but
something?
just yes, yes, yes.
I want to say that yes, I get you completely, but that's not a way to fight wars. You need to calculate yourself and calm down and come very prepared because
Yes.
emotion you're gonna lose. So maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe they are actually just taking too long. I hope not.
That was kind of the second part of my, not to say that it shouldn't be emotional or not, but yes, you're totally right. The fact that there are so many nations involved and that this is such, everything is so precise. The considerations are not only everything that we already know about publicly, it's 3, 5, 10 other layers of things that we don't even know to consider because we don't know it exists. And so
Exactly.
when I consider that, I'm like, that's the balance, right?
Especially because the US is so involved. Israel, the US are right there ready to go in, right? Ready to take responsibility for whatever is going to go down. And because of that, we have to fucking cross our T's and dot our I's. And there's so much going on within our own country. The infighting within ourselves is a huge factor.
Also, really add something on upon what you said.
Yes.
The amount of the military and logistics and refueling planes and like US actually getting tanks to like to these to the borders of Iran. Like when the last time was that the US brought tanks to the Middle East like in such amount? So I just
Wow,
believe
did not know that.
So I just believe they're like somebody must have told Trump, look, this is not Venezuela. You are not gonna sneak and take me and go out with a Macarena song. And then he was like, all right, so let's plan a big operation. And I believe they're planning a big thing. At least that's how it looks like. You must want to think of it. Like, you know, the funny thing at the day where when Israel first like started the 12 days war, right? I was posting on my Facebook account like, nah, there's no way. Like somewhere about 9 or 10 p.m. I posted a post like with a screenshot from a Ynet with all the bullshit head tails. How we name it? Kotarot head tails, no? Like
Headline.
the
Headlines.
headlines, yeah. So I posted like a screenshot with headlines from my net, and it was like full of nonsense. And like in 3 or 2 a.m., we actually heard the siren, and a couple of my friends in Facebook like wrote me like, this gun bad for you." Like he was completely wrong about it. So I guess at a day it will all start up. We just will find out a little bit later after it started.
Cat lady, go ahead, jump in.
Uh, yeah. What was my point? I kept forgetting and remembering it all the last couple of minutes.
Invasion. U.S. is taking too long. Tanks at the border.
No, if I
That was
remember. Yeah, remember. Okay, so I listened to some guy who is not a fan of Iran, is not a fan of Israel or of America. A guy from the Middle East, not supportive. But he actually, among the other points that he said, like shit on everyone and everything, but he said that one of the issues that he doesn't like that if the Shah comes back, it will take a short amount of time relatively until Iran is great because they have very smart people and they have resources and they're not lazy like us Arabs, and be they will want to be the great empire again. They will want to take us all over, and we will be regretting that we even let it happen. And I was like, yes, yes. So
the
he
most
was like,
honest and accountable Arab I've ever heard, I think. No offense.
he was like, don't let it happen. Don't let it. You have no idea. The Shah will be so strong in such a short amount of time.
The more realistic answer for that is and no, it's not going to be a short amount of time. It will actually take a while for things to stabilize. Even when we are looking at the plan of the first 100 days, yeah, we all know it's not gonna go like that exactly. And keep in mind, there are hostilities around that will try to make a mess, and we all know that there might be, maybe will be influence from other countries and maybe even pressure from the US itself that can sabotage it a bit.
True.
It will be complicated, it will take a while, and I don't think they will be in a hurry to conquer more Arab land.
Of course, we don't know, but it's like, I don't think he meant like in a year, but still, if countries here are like 70 years and are still shitholes, it will be relatively fast, right? That's what he said. He's not like a god or anything, but like just like to show what people in the area thinking, right? It's like funny.
Yeah, he's talking about like a decade. It's something along that line where they rise from the ashes and you just become the major superpower in the region. That is possible, but they are scared. They're scared shitless of this because they
Should
know
be.
that they should be absolutely. They're right to be scared. If the mullahs go away, everything changes. The entire region changes. All the groups they fund, they're going to lose all their money, and a lot of them are just going to collapse. The
All of
oil,
them are so used to take resources also for cheap.
yeah,
It won't be even for the US. Maybe I don't know. It's like they're not suckers. It's like I don't know how to say it, but it's like it's a real player, not like the semi countries who are like living on like borrowed time and borrowed money and oil.
yes, exactly. Well, they have a lot of oil, and the regime is you know they're keeping it themselves. They're manipulating the market. They're making sure that we pay a lot more for gas than we otherwise would. If the Shah gets back in there, that changes too. They will go on the market. The gas prices will fall dramatically. That's what that's what's going to happen because of what we did in Venezuela. It's going to happen with Iran too. And I think that's one of the reasons as to why Trump is definitely going to do something, because if this works out, and I think it will, gas prices will go down, and he can brag about that till the sun burns out, and he will.
You know what, Dajjal? That's exactly what he said. He said, now that the mullahs are like stupid, they're like giving away their money. The Shah will keep it. He actually
Exactly,
said, yeah.
exactly. It's to his benefit to take action. It benefits him. He's got incentive to do it, and it will boost his ego, and it will be great for him. He can, like I said, he can brag about all this until the sun burns out, and I think that's what he's got in mind. So what I say is, you shouldn't trust Trump. You should trust the incentives. You should trust his ego. You should trust him to do what he thinks is good for Trump. And I think this is good for Trump, and I don't think he knows it. We got 25,000 troops over there. That's the largest number we've ever sent over there. I think we're on the verge of something big here. I really do. We're going to strike. It's just a matter of time.
Amy, is that for now or for Armin's list?
No, for now, because
Okay,
we're
go ahead.
all talking. Am I am, and I understand what you're saying about Trump and his ego and everything, and I completely agree. But am I the only one who sees Iran, free Iran, and the people of Iran, and if that were to all actually come to be as probably the saving grace for the entire planet at this point? Because
Yes.
the size of it, the logistics, the people, everything, that it would be the biggest allies for America, Israel, and Iran. The
I
three
think that goes
biggest.
to Dijal's point too. There is no other, in my mind, opportunity, not only in Trump's presidency, but in many, I mean, who knows how many years, to do something this consequential, this praiseworthy. Not only is it fantastic for the world, but this is an opportunity of a lifetime for him. Whoever just raised their hand, can you raise it again? I didn't see.
Exactly. It's a good opportunity. He can't pass this up. If he does, he's an idiot. I think he sees what he's got here and he's going to go for it. It's just a matter of getting all your ducks in a row. I mean, that's what we're seeing here.
Shauna, go ahead. You chiming in on this?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. The mic, my headphones require 2 steps and I have to press multiple buttons. Anyway, yeah, I'm just thinking about it like too in context. This is a little bit awkward, but with everything that's going on between America and the UK and Europe more broadly, it does also feel like there's some allyship that could potentially be resetting, which is it's very interesting. I don't know what that's going to look like, but it does feel like if Europe keeps the relationship between America and Europe is very tense right now, to say the least. I think this could be a lot of reshuffling in where allies lie, I suppose, in a global order. Europe seems to be moving closer to China in some ways. Granted, we are still allies of Europe, but there seems to be some reshuffling. It wouldn't surprise me if America continues to get closer and closer to Israel, free Iran, possibly. I mean, it's still maintaining a solid relationship with Japan. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic to watch. So I don't know if anybody has thoughts, but yeah.
You know, and the
Can I
downfall
answer
of the
that?
IRGC, I think, is going to do a lot for showing what's what, because whether they believe it or not, Europe's one of their biggest problems is Islamic invasion. Many of them are not willing to admit that, but you know, Keir Starmer, for example, I mean, there are people who we can confidently say are accepting money for allowing all of these immigrants into their countries. When we get rid of the head, yeah, exactly. When there's no more ATM, like Nare says, we'll see what happens. And I think that's going to be very interesting thing to remove from the equation and now see what everybody else wants to do. And I
Can
wouldn't be
I?
surprised if they came back and started kissing our ass again, America, that is, because you know the reality, NATO needs America, America doesn't really need NATO, things like that. So when the cash cow of the IRGC is gone, what's that going to look like now? All of a sudden people are going to change their tune, you know, or what, they're going to go and be friends with, again, China and Russia. It's going to be
Well,
interesting. Yeah, cat lady, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time understanding when you finished or not. I would say be cautious about predicting the allies of the US. Sadly, the US is very unpredictable and does what's good for the US or maybe what they think is good. In my experience, they always do the good thing, but not like entire. It's confusing. I don't always understand it. And good luck to Europe with China if they think they have something to look over there. I don't know. I'm not so optimistic, but I'm also not pessimistic. It can go it will be surprising. That's for sure.
Well, that's one of the reasons why Trump wants Greenland so bad. It's because China wants it. They want to strengthen the economic ties to Greenland. They even want to put troops in Greenland, and that is something that we cannot allow. We cannot abide that, and that means acquiring Greenland for ourselves. Quite frankly,
Yeah.
which we.
I'm not
Yeah, I didn't
necessarily
hear
saying
you.
I.
I didn't
Oh, I'm
hear
not
because
saying that I
Wait,
know where
whoa,
we're
what
gonna.
did y'all say they want to put in Greenland?
Troops. China wants
Kurds?
to do Greenland.
Well,
And if we don't stop them from doing it, the Danish will let them do it because they're a bunch of cucks who bow down
Wait,
to anyone.
who wants to put the Kurds in Greenland, and why is that even a bad thing to let the Kurds go to Greenland?
I didn't say Kurds. I said troops. China wants to put troops in Greenland.
That sounds like a good thing. I mean, fruit is healthy. Like, do we not want the people of Greenland to have fruit?
No, true soldiers. Yeah.
Okay, troops. Okay, I was getting very
Samantha,
confused.
you're so sweet.
Yeah, not for troops. They want to put troops in Greenland. Yeah, they want to put troops in Greenland, and we cannot let that happen because this is our hemisphere, and that would be disastrous for us. That's why we need Greenland. And the Danish would let them do it because they're a bunch of cucks, because the Europeans don't have any balls. So we got to stop that from happening. It's our hemisphere, and we got to take ownership of it.
I also will say that I do see. I don't know what's going to happen. I also think it's going to be a little bit interesting and complicated because I actually think that Britain, the people of Britain, the native and kind of assimilated people of Britain, are going to do anything they can to stay close to America. That's kind of my opinion. I think that the cultural connections are just too old and too strong in some ways. So
I think I actually don't. Look. I actually heard from some like British people online that the 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 emotion is like stronger on the American side than on the British side. Just saying. Just saying. I don't know if it's representative or I think
okay,
like
well that's
sometimes
that's good
people
to
have
know.
like this homeland stuff and not always it's like the same strength maybe. Not sure if I'm correct or not.
Well, no, that's I mean that's information though regardless, right? It's still information to consider. And that may very well be true and we will see how it plays out. I do have a little bit more faith in Britain than in Europe though, just there is more connections there. I could be wrong, things could go haywire.
I think you got to differentiate between the British people and the British government. I think the British people have been trying to stop mass migration into their country for years now. The problem is that the government won't let them. You have this huge bureaucracy that just refuses to do what the people want and refuses to let the politicians do what they were voted in to do. And of course, a lot of politicians just don't want to do it anyway because they're a bunch of snakes.
Sorry, go ahead.
And you have a free Iran. Yeah, it's going to change. It's going to change everything. We'll have two big allies in the Middle East, and that's going to increase our leverage. I mean, just take the gas prices for example. Gas prices are going to go way down after what happened with Venezuela. And that's going to give us a lot of leverage and just the sheer aura that we're going to have. We're going to have a lot more power once this is done, and we can frankly bully the Europeans into doing what we want to do if we're ruthless enough. And I think Trump has potential to be that guy, to be ruthless, which he can't be.
Spoken like a true American. Jeffrey, I'm going to interject to let you know that Armin is off in a meeting with Israeli news. Welcome in. And we also had Francesco raise his hand to chime in on this as well.
Yeah, what I want to say is that we always talk about, I don't know, ethnicity, the real Brits, the not the Brits, but the point that I want to focus is democracies. Democracies are like real ones, not the one like Russia, are the real reason why countries don't go to war with each other. That's why, for example, I support Iran now at the transition. And yeah, we generally when people talk about Europe, it's like a single block, but in Europe there are many nations and they're all democracies. If you don't like the leadership, they will be voted out eventually. You cannot vote out Xi Jinping or Putin. That's why America and Europe are natural allies. Also, America and Israel are natural allies for this reason. And yeah, and America will never be natural ally, for example, of Syria under monarchy dictatorship like it
Francesco,
is.
can I ask something about this?
I'd
Yeah.
like to just correct Francesco quickly. That's a truth with modification. You cannot vote out the leaders of the European Parliament and so forth, and not in any meaningful sense. So, like the notion that Europe is a democracy, they're within the European Union. That's to some extent it still applies, but it's in the gray zone, to be honest.
Actually, Francesco, I'm quite surprised because it doesn't sound right to me. I maybe I'm missing something. Democracy is like a form of rule, but why do you think it's like the main thing that makes allies? Isn't interest make allies?
Both, but in general democracy, if you see the predictors, democracies don't go to war with each other, whereas authoritarian countries, dictatorship do it all the time.
Okay.
And there are some places where, I mean, there are some geographical realities, right? For
No, but maybe
example,
it's more stable. I get it. But still, stable countries don't necessarily are allies. Or maybe I don't know.
I
It's
mean,
interesting.
you should, yeah, there are interest and trade relationships and stuff, but that's from place to place. Natural allies, in the sense that you have institutions, you have general rule of laws, you have.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. So if you have like this order and you have this predictability in some ways, so you can count on people to be your allies.
And
I
also
guess.
they shift. I mean, Putin has seen many USA presidents and he knows that he can just wait it out. Leadership changes the democratic countries. You might don't like Starmer now, but yeah, those things shifts.
I
There
think
will be a
Jeffrey has
new
something to
Wenker in a while.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead, cat lady.
If you wait long enough, there will be a new Wenker.
All right, Jeffrey, go ahead. Chime in.
I just posted in the chat. Monadic regime types specifically represent republics or democracies, and economic interdependence does raise the minimum entrance barrier for interstate security competition to become interstate warfare. They are not in and of themselves decisive, or they don't trump traditional like security and warfare fighting indexes. A good example of that is World War One. So that doesn't mean though that you shouldn't pursue the expansion of representative republics or democratic governments, and or as long as everybody's engaging in a honest broker kind of manner, economic interdependence. That's one of the core foundations why President Trump is delinking. It's not because he doesn't agree with trade or economic interdependence. It's in response to a lot of other actors, not the least of which is elements of the autocratic bloc. So Putin's counter state, Chinese Communist Party, on and on, taking a perverse advantage of globalization. In other words, they're not honest brokers. We adopted a total laissez-faire free market approach, whereas many of them did not. A good example would be the Chinese Communist Party not fulfilling its agreed requirements of fully privatizing all of their companies, and or not to engage in like predatory financial policies in response to being included into the WTO and given most favored trade status. So it's not, I'm not saying it's incorrect. I'm just saying that there's a little more to that story or puzzle, as I think it was Cat Lady was saying. And it's really cool that both Francisco and Cat Lady, via your respective contributions, are providing a much more comprehensive framework on how to think about it. That's super cool.
Yeah, can I say
Francesco, sorry, your
something?
hand. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. When I say natural, like the regimes that there are in China, now the Islamic Republic, Russia, really cause people there to be worse off in general. So the biggest challenge, for example, for China is a free Taiwan, because there you have the same ethnicity, more or less. So and you see that some people are thriving and why you don't. So, having this stark, representation of truth, it's a huge problems for dictatorships inside their own population, because they want to, of course, have the wealth, right, that free trade and those principles bring. So China and Taiwan will never be alive for these reasons, because of course disprove communism as an economic model. And another thing I want to say is that, for example, Iranians now are suffering from the fact that all their wealth has been spent in useless proxy conflicts all over the world. And that's what dictatorships do, because they are so weak and pathetic that they cannot take on democracies. And all their wealth is spent in subversions, try to fight from within, and to other proxies, for example, Africa and other parts of the world to gain influence. So where democracies don't try to influence each other because they are worried about staying in power, keeping, the not staying in power, keep the population happy and managing their own countries, all the wealth of dictatorship is spent abroad, not to take care of their own populations. Those communist states, they have a terrible welfare system. So all the money that they extract from their colonies and from within is spent to
All right.
disrupt democracies. Yeah.
All right, guys. Is it okay if we go back to anybody if they had questions?
Yes, I've
Sorry
got
about
the
that.
list, but
Okay.
we would like a very quick update from you on your interview first.
I think I did very well. So it's going to come out tomorrow on Channel 12. And I think I did a good job. I was happy with it.
Can I
But
say
you guys could,
ask what
you guys
was the
could,
name of the person you spoke to?
she had like IJ something. Let me see. So I don't know who she was. I couldn't even see her face. She could see my face, but it was a recording. So I don't know her name. But she asked really good questions.
All right, we'll keep an eye so we can all watch. Next on the list is Samantha, then Francesco.
Oh, I was just gonna ask if you knew, like, to what extent China might be willing to try to help keep Islamic Republic in power. That could make a huge difference on how difficult it's gonna be to get the Islamic Republic out of power.
Yeah, so China is not going to like it at all for the Islamic Republic to fall because it gets really good cheap oil from Iran right now at a discounted price. And it has become a major source of cheap oil and gas for China. Both China and Russia have been able to use the fact that the Islamic Republic is isolated to get so many deals from the Islamic Republic that basically gives away a lot of our resources at prices that is basically close to theft. I don't think they're going to do anything from a military perspective. It's very, very unlikely for that to happen because the Islamic Republic, if you read the writing on the wall, it's like it's it seemed everybody could see that it's one way or another is going to be falling. If it doesn't happen right now, it seemed like it's so weak right now that at some point it's going to fall apart. So if you spend any resources trying to save it, you are basically spending money on an investment that is going to crash anyways, so it's not worth the investment. Who are you going to war with? Like, maybe they would help them in a way, like by sending them legally. They might help them in the United Nations Security Council by vetoing whatever they need to veto. They might issue some really angry worded letters against the West and what they're doing. But militarily, if they wanted to help, they would not obviously participate in any war against Israel or United States. Like that would be insane for China to get involved, like to fight over what? The Islamic Republic? Like if China wants to go to war with the United States, at least they would make it something worthy, like Taiwan. They wouldn't go over the Islamic Republic. It's not worth fighting the United States over that. But if they wanted to help militarily, they might just basically give the Islamic Republic some weaponry, whatever military assets that they might need at this time to be able to defend themselves, but they wouldn't participate themselves. Another big loss for China and Russia is, if the Islamic Republic falls, is going to be that they liked the government in Iran, the regime in Iran, to be anti-Western, to basically slow them down and keep them occupied there. It's a really big blow to both China and Russia if the government in Iran turns pro-America. It's especially for the Cold War that we're seeming to be entering in. America have such a powerful ally in the Middle East is going to be something that Russia and China will not be able to take advantage of when that Cold War starts, as a way to have leverage over the United States and its allies in the Middle East. So they're losing a major leverage to put pressure on the allies of United States in the Middle East. So that's devastating for them. But there's nothing they could do
about it. Depending on the level of help the Islamic Republic can get from other Islamist groups, I think it's possible that with enough technology and weaponry support from China, no matter how high a price the Iranian people might be willing to pay to overthrow the Islamic Republic, I'm not sure it's enough if the Iranian people don't get help.
But if the Iranian people don't get help, that means that the cost of this revolution is going to be very, very high, and it's going to take a much longer time than we want. I don't see any way for the Islamic Republic to survive. Like, I don't see it. They're basically going completely bankrupt. And I mean, as much as they have some people who are ideologically will defend them, no matter, even if they don't get paid, at some point there's not enough of those ideological
But if
people.
it might be cheaper for China to pay those people and still kind of rob the oil than
I don't see China basically coming out paying terrorists to kill Iranians. Like that is too far of a red line even for China to come on Iranian soil and pay terrorists to kill Iranians. Here's the thing: China is too connected to the global order as we're in, right? So there are some limits that it pretends to abide by, because China benefits too much from the world order that it's in, to for it to, it cannot be too obvious of a monster. You know what I mean? This is basically cartoonish level of evil, to basically pay internationally recognized terrorist groups to kill civilian people in a country. Like that is something that the Islamic Republic and even Putin is willing to do. But I think it's a step too far maybe for China. I mean, I don't know. But
China doesn't have to
Jeffrey,
outright do that. China could just maybe tell the Islamic Republic, hey,
there's some
if
money.
you kind of low key put this money aside for terrorist groups, we'll pay a little bit more for oil, because it's still cheaper to pay you a little bit more for oil than to
I don't
not
know.
have you control.
I mean, China has proven to not lift a finger when the Islamic Republic needed them the most. Like China was always there to take advantage of the weakness of the Islamic Republic to suck whatever they want, or suck whatever oil and gas they want out of it. But they have never really been there for Islamic Republic when they needed them, right?
But has Islamic
So they're
Republic ever faced a risk of actually falling like this?
yeah, but the risk is so guaranteed that I don't think that China, I mean, the Chinese government is really wise. They know, they have the proper information. They know what's happening, right? And they're not going to basically be continuing to betting on a dying horse. Like, why would
But
they
that's the thing,
continue
is I'm not
betting on
sure it's a dying horse.
it? It is a dying horse. Like, if you crunch the numbers economically, to keep this Frankenstein monster alive, you're going to need like astronomical amount of money, which China will not be willing to. It's not worth it.
Jeffrey has put a hand up. I think he wants to chime in on
Yeah,
this, if that's all right.
Jeffrey.
Hey guys, sorry about the camera being off. I haven't shaved yet. So you're both talking about real issues that are being looked at. On one instance, Armin is very correct that China, the Chinese Communist Party that's illegally occupied mainland China since 1949, is going to game its behavior based on risk and loss. He's not wrong. That said, Samantha's also equally not wrong, especially if the Chinese Communist Party sees, well, the mullah regime's going out, so they're going to give the mullah regime as much material assistance as they can, where it doesn't eat into primary capabilities they need to go into Taiwan if it ups the cost of U.S. intervention, which indeed they're doing. The issue, the thing regarding what's not going to help the Chinese Communist Party though, is that like there's a reason Pete Hegseth did what he did, Armin. There's a reason we did like a World War II level expansion of our munitions production because we know what was coming. I can't let you keep it and block some things out. You'll see exactly what was sent up the chain, at least from me, regarding how war is inevitable and how we're in the opening stages of probably a high intensity world war. And we have to act in a manner we have to act in accordance with that reality. And not the least of that is taking as many of the pieces of the autocratic bloc off the board. And one of the main ones is taking out the mullah regime that's illegally occupied Iran since 1979. We cannot afford to not do it. You're both talking about a different part of this overall puzzle, and they're not mutually exclusive. It's really cool that you guys are doing that. Can I say something to Samantha? Hey, Samantha, I felt real bad yesterday because I know that bothered you what went on. I hope you understand I wasn't trying to make your anxiety go up with regards to what happened in Minnesota. I understand how you feel. I just wanted to say that wasn't meant to make you feel uncomfortable.
Thanks.
Also, Samantha, please note that a security analyst thought that you had some really good points about China's way of looking at this. So that's pretty impressive.
Thanks.
Okay, next we have Francesco, and then Amy, you're following.
Yeah, my question I think is pretty bad, but to you, Armin. But what incentive has the Islamic Republic of keeping Iranians because they're going through probably a very bad water crisis, and I mean the biggest. I know that you export saffron and pistachios, but the biggest export is oil, right? That's where most of and the Iranians are just a liability at this point because they are against the regime. You have like a hostile population. You are going through a water crisis anyway. So what good are Iranians for the Islamic Republic? Why do they? Yeah, is there any incentives to keep them around or not to kill as many as possible?
Well, so you're basically separating keeping Iran from keeping Iranian people? Like there's a good reason to keep Iran because it has a lot of oil and gas.
Iranian people, the people that are hostile to the Islamic Republic. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually, there's something interesting I want to talk about demographic engineering that the Islamic Republic has been trying to go through. But like, what would you propose? Like, how would you keep Iran without the Iranian people?
You can import a lot of. You don't have to kill them all.
If you want to kill them all, it will enrage them to the point that they will do a mass revolt against you and topple you. So, I mean, you can see that the fact that they killed so many tens of thousands, that has already, in my opinion, ended them, right? So the reason why they didn't do this earlier, because they also believe that if they just start killing Iranian people, that would be the end of them because people will be angry and start waging a war against the regime, right? And if you have millions of people in the streets, even if you have, at some point you're not going to have enough resources to basically keep them all, suppress them all. You are correct that the Islamic Republic has thought about this, thinking about this. I want to use this country's resources for my Islamic imperial agenda, but these people suck, right? These people are not Islamic, right? It's like at all. Like So this has been a very tough situation for the Islamic Republic, and they tried to topple the people before the people topple the regime. So they have basically bringing in mass migration from Iraq, Pakistan, and especially from Afghanistan in hundreds of thousands of numbers, trying to replace the people with more religious Shias from Shia minority from Afghanistan, Shia minority from Pakistan, and honestly anybody from Afghanistan, as long as they are not like liberal minded like the Iranian people, and especially from like also from Iraq, a lot from Iraq. Not only that, just I think this year they passed a law that if you have temporary marriage with Iranian women, basically prostitution, you will be rewarded with residentship. I don't know if did you know that, Francisco? They passed this law in the parliament of the Islamic Republic in the Majlis, saying that if you come from one of these countries, if you're Shia and non-Iranian Shia coming to Iran, we encourage you to have sex with these basically Shia prostitutes that we have, and for the reward, we will give you permanent residentship and a type of permanent residentship that gives you the right to own property inside Iran. Because usually permanent residentship in Iran doesn't come with the right to own property, but this was a special class of permanent residentship that you get rewarded with having sex with, because they wanted to also have Iranian women to have their children. They wanted them to be fodder, so mixing them with the Iranian woman to basically, so they had this really evil plan to basically replace the Iranian people with Shias from other countries.
Okay, I didn't know about this law, but yeah, I would try to replace the population if I were them. That's
Yeah, they were in the process of doing this. They were even bringing people from Nigeria, even. So yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, next up we have Amy, and then Dajal, you are after.
I didn't really have anything to say. I was just worried because it's 4:20 now, and I didn't know if Armin had to go.
No, I'm okay.
He is out of here in 40 minutes. That's his
All
mark.
right, cool.
Okay, Dajal. You just got called a pothead. Okay, Dajal, you're next, and then my favorite uncle.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, sorry about that. I had a glitch. Yeah, I was going to ask you, Armin. Actually, I got to regain my train of thought. Some distracted me, so just lower the list and get back to me in a moment. You would?
Okay, uncle, you're next.
Yes, thank you. I hope I'm not distracting, but it was to the topic of China's involvement and also the notion of providing armaments to the Iranians. And I think I'll just start with the Chinese one just to add on what was already. So there is I mentioned this earlier, but to keep this together, the Chinese, they have not really committed with military equipment of any significance. So, I mean, passing on rifles and rocket launchers is of no mean, doesn't matter in this regard. The Islamic Republic has enough of that already themselves. What the weapon platforms like anti-air and stuff like that and missiles, these things take training. So it's not something that the Chinese can simply dump there. If they wanted this to work, they would have to actually have had trainers and advisors there for quite a while so that the Islamic Republic could actually use the weapons. And that would have been useful for Chinese. So like I think that they're mostly posturing, because if they were to actually capitalize on having, let's say, okay, the Islamic Republic is going to fall, we're going to lose this card, so let's try to get the most out of it as we can before we have the thing that really matters to us, namely Taiwan. So let's get our equipment battle tested. And getting equipment battle tested is very, very valuable. For if they were to be it's like a regular investment, right? If you what happens early in your investment has a compound effect. And the same is a military investment. If you have to adapt a lot of with your equipment and so forth early, that's going to have compounding effect later. So that would be a rationale that would make sense for the Chinese to do. But since they have not committed prior, I am pretty sure this is mostly a posturing, because as soon as they try to put any equipment there, they're going to be prime targets for the Americans to strike out immediately. And putting military personnel, I mean, they could conceivably, but it is very, very unlikely. As for the arming the civilians, I get where people are coming from, but one should also note that the civilians are not trained. And while it may have the security forces turn at first because they're expecting the masses to be unarmed, after that point, once they have noticed that the uprising is armed, they will be just changing their pattern of engagement. And that means that they will involve a much more, they will always be ensuring that they have overwhelming force. And so that means that it will get bloodier probably. The people who are unarmed might be shielded a little bit, but those who are then armed and untrained becomes primary targets. And it's important to note that yes, you give them the ability to defend themselves, but even though they are armed, it's sort of like sending lambs to the slaughter nonetheless, because they will be very ill-equipped and trained, and it takes more preparation. So yeah, I would also be a little bit cautious about just handing weapons, because that is an additional risk to the people themselves, in addition to the weapons being handed over. So yeah, caution is advised in that regard.
So when it comes to weapons to the people, I understand the concern. It's just that there's nothing more devastating than what's already happening to them. I think being able to give the Iranian people a fighting chance after this level of slaughter that has been inflicted upon them, even if there's some risk associated with that, I think it makes sense, because there's, even if there are some danger associated with that, it cannot be as devastating as what the Islamic Republic is doing to the Iranians while they're unarmed, right? So cost benefit analysis, I think it's worth it.
I agree. A middle ground to that would be that they were provided armaments closer to the coastline, because then they could be able to call in support more easily from the Americans and Israelis, in the regard that where they gain a little bit more parity. So let's say in the first round, it's just firearms. Then the Basij and the IRGC starts mobilizing and adapting accordingly. That's a good thing for the Americans and Israelis, because that makes their targets, it makes for more target-rich environment. So there might be something to that where you can get the most out of it. But of course, just to be clear, like, I'm not saying like, oh, don't give them any weapons, because then they might get killed. I mean, if they're killed anyways, then yeah, of course, this is, but no, yeah.
Before I go, Jeffrey, I think he had some opinions on this, but Jeffrey, can you address this as well? What do you think about my opinion of, instead of moving weapons into Iran, is just find a way to get Iranian people access to where the Islamic Republic is storing its own weapons? Isn't that a more, more likely way to be able to do this successfully?